Hello, 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 hello. Hey, hey, look at there. What in the devil was wrong with that? No, I'm here now. I OBS, man. That is just like a microcosm of how my day has been. It has been a day. Man, what is going on with the OBS? I've literally not changed any settings since Thursday when I streamed successfully and everything was fine. Question mark. Hey, Nursburger. Gotta use Streamlabs, my man? Yeah. Yeah, but then I have to go back through and reset everything up. Welcome, Nursburger. Hope everything's going well. Haven't had a chance to watch your YouTube video yet. It's on the list. Life has been somewhere between bonkers and crazy. But welcome. Good to see you. Hope you're doing all right. We're talking about books tonight. Now that I've got all of the audio situations straightened out, welcome everybody to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes. I'm a history nerd. I do things history related. I go dig in the dirt. I take vacations that are not really vacations. They're mostly just running around in the middle of a desert and climbing on ancient stuff. Good news is that Streamlabs uploads all your settings to the cloud, so you never have to redo them after that. Oh, see, now you're talking a language that is nice to my ears. I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm a man that will take advice, so I will look into that. Probably not tonight. I want to chill out for the rest of the night. Maybe over the weekend when I have some breathing space. If I get some breathing space. You know. Hope everybody's doing well. Ventures in History. It's a show about history. We talk about stuff. We make bad puns. We try to defunkify history. It doesn't have to be a bunch of old white guys. I feel like an old white guy sometimes. I mean, I can't deny the white guy part. I'm getting older. I feel much older than I am. I'm definitely more crotchety than I should be for someone my age. But, you know, that's how life goes. Super excited for this one. You like books? I like books too. I need a new bookshelf, and we already have 6 bookshelves. Yeah. So this is a viewer request episode. Every other Tuesday we do topics that you all want to talk about. Last viewer request was on the Celtic people and mythology. Tonight is on bookmaking and printing. So there we are. You are young until you just start yelling at the TV. Oh, I've been yelling at the TV for ages now. Ages. You grow up in the South and everybody, this displeases Kondo. Yeah, I know. This does not spark joy. But I love books, and books do spark joy in me. So Marie Kondo can go organize somebody else's house. Go tell some children to get off of your lawn. There are neighborhood kids, but they don't usually get on my lawn. I don't think I've ever told them to get off of my lawn, but yeah, oh well. Anyway, so how are you all? Hope you're doing okay. Hope that life is treating you well. The world is crazy. I hope that this show can be a calm eye of the hurricane for all of the crazy world out there. Do we talk about history? Yes, we do. We talk about history. Your back hurts. Daria, is your back hurting from sleeping on a studio couch and then staying up for way too long? Perhaps. Chocolate, yes, we do talk about history. And we're going to be talking tonight about the history of books and how books get made and how they translated. No tears, only dreams now. Oh, 2:07 in the morning. Yeah, I you're from the Netherlands, right? If I do so believe. Or you're from Denmark. I think it's the Netherlands. Chocolate. That's where the creepy nuns are, yeah. All right. I try to remember my people, so welcome back. All right. So we're here. I do have a little bit of a fun news. My wife, who has a lot of artistic talent that is just bottled up inside of a very tiny little compartment that is her. She has taken it upon herself once again to do some artwork for a giveaway. So at the end of the episode, we will be giving away a piece that commemorates our last episode. Just got off work here. It's 5, eating a Big Mac, living the good life. Sounds great. So, like I said, our last viewer request episode was the Celts, and this is, for those of you that were here, we talked about Celtic money, which usually, before they had a lot of interaction with the Romans, showed up as golden rings that would wear in your ears or around your neck in a necklace. And the joke started that they were golden donuts. So my wife, taking that joke, has made this little guy, which is Adventures in History, viewer request, episode 8, The Celts. And the little guy here says, "Oh, wait, you're supposed to wear them." And this guy, of course, is having a golden donut. My wife is super talented. She keeps me sane in the crazy world. So we'll be giving that away at the end of the show. We'll also be picking the topic for the next viewer request episode at the end of the show. So hang around for that. Just a reminder, you can send me emails if you want to. There's my email address, mckinnistravels@gmail.com. You can also follow me on social media. I have not done very much social media. Hey, Jim Bob. It's going okay. It's been a rough couple of days. I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat everything. I'm under a lot of stress, both mentally and emotionally, but I'll be okay. Don't worry about me. How are you? I've also built a Discord channel that I've posted a link to there. So if you want to go keep up with people, that is becoming much more active than my social media. So if you want to see history news or memes or just chit chat with other people from the channel, you can go check out the Discord server. The next topic is scouting. Maybe. We'll have a vote and we'll see. You can't join. Okay. Is anybody else having trouble with that Discord link? It looks like it's working for me. Daria got jalapeno bacon donuts and then dropped them all. That is sad panda. I do want to take just a moment. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about this because a lot of you are friends from my other friend, David Peterson's channel. But my friend and friend of the show, David Peterson, is running an event for the rest of the week. It picks up tomorrow. He is a author and illustrator of the comic book Mouse Guard, has also done a lot of other comic work, and he is running an online comic book convention from Wednesday to Sunday, and it's going to have lots of different panels and guests. He's going to be doing artwork live on stream. There's going to be voice actors that are internationally acclaimed coming in to do live readings. There's going to be music and all kinds of stuff. So I've just posted a link to his blog that talks all about the people that are showing up and the guests and things like that. So come by. It'll be a good time, and I'll be there. So if you can't get enough of Shane, I'll also be very quiet, so you don't have to deal with me if you don't want to. If my presence is what's going to potentially keep you from there. But I feel like if you're here, you don't necessarily mind me so much. But alas. There we are. Okie dokie. So let's get at it. What about books? Gotta love books. Well, books as we know them are actually a super modern invention. They are not really something that's been around for most of human history. They haven't even really been around for what we would consider most of recorded history. You send Kyle to get the donuts. We didn't really get books until not too long ago. It's only been a couple of thousand years since books have been created. And I know that seems like, oh God, a couple of thousand years. But let's remember, humans are 200,000 plus years old. So like 1% of human history has had books. So think about it that way. So where did we start then, right? If we didn't have books, how did we record our history? Well, we've talked about writing a lot, and I don't want to go back over the whole thing of writing and alphabet. You are free to check out the VODs on the channel if you want to know more about stuff like that. Did you show Daria the art thing that you mentioned last time, Shane? I think she was here. I think she saw it because I'm pretty sure she entered to win it. So yeah, I think she saw that. The Assyrian King starter pack. So where did people get this idea of writing long chunks of stuff down and then collecting them and keeping them together? Well, it's actually going to go all the way back to good old-fashioned cuneiform. All the way back into the earliest of the writing world in the Middle East, in Mesopotamia. You're going to get cuneiform tablets. And it's pretty clear that people actually considered certain collections of tablets to kind of go together. Because as I say we as if I'm over there doing all of the archaeology. I haven't done any archaeology in Iraq. But as archaeologists dig up some of these ancient libraries, you'll very frequently find sets of tablets, which are kind of like a book. Like the Epic of Gilgamesh, if you've ever heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh. One of the oldest stories, the oldest narrative stories that's ever been recorded from somewhere back around the 2200 BC range. It comes on a set of 11 tablets. And what is kind of neat about this is that when you find these 11 tablets, they're almost always the same, right? They're written in the same way. And in fact, we have pieced together the complete story, or most of the complete story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, because there was this sort of standardized set of 11 tablets that controlled them. You read the Epic of Gilgamesh in Old English. It was very interesting and a little challenging. Yeah, it's a neat little story. It's got all kinds of fun stuff. It's got heroes and demons and gods that are trying to wipe out humanity, and drinking and taverns and all the good things that stories should have. And questions about life and the hero's journey and all of that stuff. The Old English was challenging. Oh yeah, I can't read Old English. Well, I mean, I guess I could if I tried, but it would be like, it would be a trouble. I wouldn't necessarily want to go through that. So you get these cuneiform tablets, but you also start seeing stuff later on, especially around the time that we get to the Assyrians, where people start writing these really long examples of stuff. So let me show you some images. I should put on the adventure hat. Dun, 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 dun. For those of you that don't know, the adventure hat is the hat that I bring with me when I go on my adventures around the world and around the country. It has been to lots of different places. It's been on 3 different continents. I love this hat probably more than I should love a physical object. But it is what it is. And I wear the adventure hat when I talk about things that I have seen specifically. And if you are so interested and you get enough points, you can summon the adventure hat, and I will tell you a fun little story about some adventure that I've been on. I have another hat as well, which is the opinion hat, which is what I wear when I'm telling you my opinion, so that you can distinguish between my opinion and a fact. And if you have enough points, you can also summon the opinion hat. So below your chat window, remember that you have adventure points. And there are lots and lots of things to redeem those adventure points for. Hey, Steph Anomaly, how's it going? Greetings, my Tennessee friend. Hope all is well in your world. So let's look at pictures. What we're looking at here is the surface of a gigantic stela. Stela is, again, a huge standing stone. This particular one is about 6.5 feet tall. And you can see here, can you redeem your adventure points for Adventure Big Mac meals? I don't know how I would get that to you, Nurseburger. I could tell you stories of foreign hamburgers. Hamburgers are becoming ubiquitous, and I've had hamburgers in lots of different countries. So if you so desire, I could tell you an adventure hamburger story. So there we are. So you can see here that the surface of this particular stela is just absolutely covered with this writing. An acceptable substitute? Okay, cool. Like the Impossible Big Mac. But in a certain way, this giant stela and this humongous record of information is kind of like a book. This is, of course, a little bit different because it's the law code of Hammurabi. If you are familiar with the Babylonian king Hammurabi, who made a very famous law code, this is actually one of the big stela that's recording it. But there are also things like this. Okay, well, we've already had the adventure hat summoned on me. Let me get through showing this picture, and then we will tell a hamburger adventure story. Jump Bob, well redeemed, sir. Well redeemed. This is what we call a prism, and the Assyrians were especially good at doing this. They would find this rock, and then they would coat this rock with clay or plaster. This particular one is a big hexagon, and they would write all sorts of stuff on it. And this particular one is by the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal. And if you hang around on Thursday, we'll talk a lot about Ashurbanipal. But this particular prism records the entire story of his military adventures. So in a certain way, that's kind of a book, right? I mean, it's clearly not like a book with pages, but the concept here that we're getting at is we have to record a lot of information, and it has to be able to be passed down from person to person, and we need to do it in a way that everybody understands that it's sort of part of the whole, right? So that's what these prisms and these stelas are. And you thought your books took up a lot of space. Right. Okay, so the adventure hat has been summoned, and since I'm already wearing it, it seems like a good time to tell a hamburger story. All right, well, how about one from I can't say last summer anymore, 2 summers ago. Not this most recent summer that we're currently kind of still in, but the one prior when we could travel and before the world went crazy with all of the things that the world's gone crazy with since then. Mac and the Lab Coat, one of the mods, and I were in Greece, and Greece is an interesting place to travel through. The roads there are a mix of very, very modern and literally built by people in the Iron Age. Jerusalem, Turkey, hello. Hey, Laugh of Mamba, how's it going? Welcome. I have been to Turkey. I've not been to Jerusalem. I would love to go to Jerusalem. I've got a friend that stayed there for quite some time, and I have some pretty neat artifacts that come from that area. Oh yeah, I've been to Greece before. You ready to learn something, Sensei? We're all friends here. We're not on any level. You're welcome. Make bad jokes, make good jokes, puns, questions, whatever you got. So Mac and a Lab Coat and I were in Greece, and one of my mentors, this guy that basically taught me most of what I know about ancient history. I traveled with him to a couple of different foreign countries on archaeological kind of things. He had told us that we had to go to this one particular burger place, and that it was like the best burger place in all of Greece. And so we get over there, and we were on a driving day. So some of the days when we were in Greece were really, really heavy driving. And we got out there and we had just finished looking at the hot gates of Thermopylae, where the Spartans fought the Persians, the Battle of 300s. I've been to Germany before. I've not been to Netherlands. So we're leaving Thermopylae, and we've got about a 3.5 hour drive, and we're on this Greek highway, and we're hauling tail. We're in this little like dinky German Opel hatchback standard thing with a really bad clutch on it. But we're just hauling down the highway, and we see the sign for this burger place on the highway, and we weren't necessarily hungry, but we had been told that you got to go to this place. Random World Capital. If you redeem that, there's a little blank for you to put in a country, and I will tell you the capital of the country if I know it, and if not, you get one up on me. I don't know all of the capitals of all of the countries in the world. I know a lot of them. It's kind of a bragging rights thing. I have been beaten before. Okay, so we pull into this burger place, and it's literally on the side of the highway. And we get out, and we're both like really excited about these burgers. And we get in the place, and it is basically a Greek version of McDonald's. It's super like clearly fast food. I got a burger and some onion rings, and Mac and a lab coat got a burger, and we had Fanta. When you're in Europe, you can get the good Fanta that actually has orange juice in it. And we sat down, and we're both like super ready to eat these hamburgers. And that was one of the least impressive hamburgers of my life. It cost about $8 for a hamburger that was probably about yay big, and an order of onion rings that may have had 9 or 10 onion rings about this big. It was such a bummer. And I got to the hotel that night and got on Messenger and was messaging this guy back, and I said, you sent us to this place and you told us that it was the best burger place in all of Greece, and it was garbage. And he said, where did you go? And I told him where we went, and he's like, oh yeah, you weren't supposed to go to that one. You're supposed to go to this particular location that was in a city like 10 hours on the other side of Greece from us. And that would have been important information to know, right? Like if we're supposed to go to this one particular, and this was like the original location, right? The one that started it all, not the chain or the franchise place. Yeah. It was a fun adventure, and I got a fun story out of it. And I have other burger stories. Those are not the only burger stories that I have. So if anybody wants more burger stories, let me know. All right. So yeah, 10 hours. We didn't end up going to the other one because we were kind of burned out on the other, like the chain franchise version that we went to. So we didn't go to the good one. Well, yeah, I can tell you where the least, like, if there's such thing. Romans. Countrymen.
Lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
Who likes to praise Caesar? That guy got stabbed by his bros. Thanks, Bubble World Comics, and welcome. For those of you not familiar, Bubble World Comics. Oh, I should do lots of shout-outs. Well, he's not. Oh, there he is. Boom. Bubble World Comics, art streamer, fellow Mississippian.
Friends.
And the Nursburger.
Romans. Countrymen. Lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
Here's Nursburger. Old friend from way back in the days when I was younger and fancy freer. Cool guy. Does music streams occasionally. Go check him out. Yes, they were beef burgers. They had a lamb burger, and I probably should have gotten that one. It was kind of like I should have a lamb burger. but I didn't. Don't follow me on Twitch. You never stream anymore. Okay, well, still shout out. How about Daria? For those of you that don't know, Daria, excellent art streamer. Life of Mamba, do you stream? I can't remember if you do. Yes, go find Nerdsburger. And Nerds, if you want to throw your YouTube link in there, please feel free to do so. Life of Mamba is friends from another stream. And that stream is just like chock full of crazy stuff. Where everybody there is like super great artists, so I can't remember. Hey Caesar, I like that leaf thing on your head. You really pull that off. Why, thank you, citizen. That's how you praise Caesar. Someone needs to create a running tally of how many Adventure Hat stories are related to food and how many involve public urination. So far, none of them have involved public urination. That particular story that you're referring to was a number 2. Kelly Howlett, another great art streamer. That's just at Kelly Howlett. Go check out Kelly. I have plenty of those stories too. I mean, I've been around. Also, and this is completely out of left field, and has basically nothing to do with anything that I just said. But there is a Twitch streamer. He's not in the stream right now, but he's a really cool guy. He does great artwork. He's from the UK. He is a really chill dude. Good vibes in the channel. He's trying to make affiliate. So if you have some time, he usually streams in the mornings. The mornings here in the United States. So go give him a follow. Show up in his stream. Hang around for a little while. He's trying to get that magic affiliate viewer stream up. So I missed the number 2 story. Did you poop in a ruin? Yes, I did. Not in a ruin, technically. Well, I guess it depends on how big of a ruin is a ruin. But I don't know. I pooped in an ancient city. I don't know if that counts as a ruin. He became ruined after he pooped there. Well, it's ruined now, yeah. You all. I needed this so badly. You don't even know. You don't even know. Yes, go follow Nerdsburger's YouTube channel. Smart dude, does a lot of really good journalism, is involved with California, their letters, and I can't say the letters, like California Public Broadcasting kind of stuff. It's been picked up by the Associated Press several times. Good dude. You should go check him out. Okay. So we've got rocks, right? And that's what our books are. We start off with rocks. Yeah. And then we come up with this new stuff. And this new stuff is, oh my gosh, it's so revolutionary. Are you ready for it? Here's the new stuff. It's a plant. I'm a journalist for iHeartMedia, been on BBC and NPR. Yeah, NPR, those are the letters that I was looking for. Some person at Pompeii has been like, even the poop has been preserved. Yeah, yeah, really. There are poops preserved in Pompeii. So we move from rocks to this stuff. Plants. This is papyrus. Everybody knows papyrus, right? Well, papyrus is a plant. It's a reed. And when you take this big stalk here and you peel that big stalk off and you get to stuff inside of it, the stuff inside is called pith, P-I-T-H. And you take those pith strips and lay them out and bash them together, and you get stuff that looks like this, which is Papyrus paper. Woo! This particular papyrus. Yeah, no problem, man. Absolutely. Yeah, Bubba writes in hieroglyphics. If you go to his chat and do some stuff to get in the book, he writes in hieroglyphics. That's crazy wicked. I was really excited the other day when I saw that. And stop being so self-deprecating, Nersberger. You have good stuff. It's not dumb stuff. But I understand because I do the same thing. Also used in making the Avatar logo. Yeah. That particular papyrus is a font, though. But I got it. Yeah, so that was the Egyptian Book of the Dead, because papyrus is an Egyptian product. So you peel off that outer layer of the reed, and you have this sort of fibrous... oh, you want to see it again? There we go. So this is Osiris sitting on his crown, or on his throne, wearing his nice big crown with his staff, and he's got all these supplicants coming before him. This, of course, goes into the story of the great, like, magic charms and deity kind of stuff. But that's our new writing material. So you take this pith, and it comes out in these long strings, and you chop it kind of down to size, and then you lay these strips out, and then you go 90 degrees, and you lay them out this way. So you have a grid pattern, yeah. And then you mush it between two hot rocks that will sort of squish out the juice stuff, and then you leave it to dry. I'm not saying I'm old, but hieroglyphics is what they were teaching when I was in school. That's a bit old, but, you know, in the scheme of the earth, that's very, very young still. So, young at heart, Bubba, right? So you make this stuff by stripping this stuff out. Let me write here, papyrus. And pith is that word that I said earlier. You was taught Coptic at school. Well, there you go. You also were in an ancient language program, so close enough. Organic writing material, you write on it, you beat it till it's flat, and you come behind and you scrape it with a, well, not scraping, scraping is a bad word. You polish it up. So after your papyrus is dry, you would get like a rounded, smooth stone, and you kind of just rub it so it knocks all of the little kind of individual plant fibers down to sort of a mush. And if you so desire, you can actually join these pages together to make something called a scroll. Scrolls! You guys know what a scroll is, right? Papyrus is the font next to Comic Sans. Yeah, you don't use... yeah, the SNL Papyrus skill is pretty great. So, scrolls are our new books. Stop trying to make rocks happen, right? Scrolls? No, that's from the Marvel comic books. First appearance of a scroll is Fantastic Four #2. You get the first scrolls. I'm a giant comic book nerd. So, Fantastic Four #2. Super Scroll is Fantastic Four #17. So, I think. All I can think of is Undertale. You are not Undertale trash. If you go to Google and you type in papyrus, the first thing that comes up is Undertale. Another way that Google has been ruined by popular culture. So, you have papyrus. Papyrus is super, super popular. Egyptians' longest lasting non-food export is papyrus. There are documents written on papyrus all the way until the AD time period. They came up with it all the way back in the 2500s BC. I think that was one of the first things Shane told me when we met. He loves comics. I do. I'm a giant comic book nerd. And you find evidence of Egyptian papyrus all over the ancient world. We're talking Egyptian-made papyrus shows up from like England and the UK all the way down to the Sudan region down in Central Africa. So this huge range of span from all the way from Spain over here to the furthest reaches of Iran on the border with the Himalaya mountains. Papyrus is everywhere because it's light. Like KP joked about earlier, or no, that was Kyle Wright that joked earlier about his books being heavy. Imagine if you had to carry around a giant rack full of clay tablets or stone tablets, and then somebody handed you something like this and said, look, you can write on this and it'll stay. That's crazy. That's amazing innovation. You met Stan Lee twice in the same weekend by accident. Perhaps it was fate. Did you yell Excelsior at him? Papyrus is the best thing before sliced bread. I think that there are a few things better than that. Sliced bread didn't really show up until like the 1920s. Betty White is the best thing before sliced bread. And that's accurate. She was born before sliced bread was put on the shelves. So I saw that in a meme, so it's got to be true. Anyway, so papyrus is great. One problem with papyrus. Because it's made out of plant material, if it gets wet or if it's stored improperly, it falls apart. Now, if you're in the Middle East and it's hot and it's very dry, this isn't a problem. But if you're outside of that region, papyrus is not as lasting as it seems. It's just like a piece of paper today, right? You turn something in with a coffee stain on it with a little bit of special sauce from your Big Mac on it, But if you store the information in the paper, you don't store it in your brain. Right. It also makes terrible toilet paper. True story. I almost got to interview Stan Lee when he was going to appear at Wizard World in Sacramento. He ended up canceling because he was sick. He passed away a few... Oh, man. That's a bummer. But it's a good story. Papyrus actually makes great toilet paper, far better than quilting. There we go. It's got ridges. 1926's sliced bread. I thought it was 22, but I was close. 28? Okay, I'm still kind of close. It was in the 20s. Did I say 11 or 12? I think I said 1912. I can't remember. It was Dragon Con in 93, and we were in the hotel room across from the hall from Stan Lee. You got to interview William Shatner. He was very nice. Betty White is 1922. Okay, cool. Thanks, Google. And Daria for doing the Googling. All right. So, if your papyrus falls apart... Oh, yeah, you interviewed Lando. I saw that. That was legit. So, if your papyrus falls apart and you want something better to write on, what do you write on? Well, there's the stuff called parchment. And heads up, modern parchment that you buy in the store probably isn't actual parchment. It's synthetic parchment or plant-based parchment. Real parchment, if you buy it today, is still super expensive because parchment is made out of leather. That's right, it's animal hide. Usually a young animal, cow or sheep or goat. Oh, no, dude. No, dude. It's okay. George Takei, Walter Koenig made some great Shatner stories. Kyle did the binging. Oh. Don't, you are not derailing me. That is part of the fun of the room. Being goofy and hanging out with like-minded people and having a moment where we can recognize that the world is not full of crazy people. Right? Well, I mean, crazy in the good way. Vellum. Yes, vellum is a version of parchment. Vellum is specific to the youngest of animals, hopefully before they have any scarring done, because scars on the skin of the animal will show up in the parchment. Yes, so vellum is like parchment special, is the veal version of parchment. So steak is steak, but veal is a baby cow. Vellum is like a baby cow skin, or a calf, before they get really big and stringy, before the skin gets too thick. It's very, very fine. Fine meaning like thin, not fine meaning like, hey, that's some fine vellum. But it's fun to ink on. Baby animal paper, yay! Hey guys, gonna have to catch the VOD later. One of the apartments in... Holy crap, Joey! Dude. I hope everything is okay. Get your stuff and run. I hope everything's okay. Send us something on the Discord later and let us know that you're doing all right. Well, when I say get your stuff, Joey has puppies. So get your puppies. KP's been able to handle a 1600-year-old vellum Bible. That's awesome. Yeah, Joey, please be safe. Check in somehow whenever you get the chance. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on. Whenever you get a chance, let us know. Get the fur babies right. Okay. So, parchment. How do you do it? Well, there's actually a lot involved in making parchment. First off, you got to have lime. And you take the lime and you mix it with water and you make this stuff called slurry. And you put the skin down in there to soak so that all of the connective parts of the skin and the hair get loose and start falling out. And then you stretch it out on a rack. And you tie little bits of it to the square lime Slurpees. The first rule of parchment production is you don't ask questions about parchment production. You're outside with your brother and your dog. Everyone got out safe. Okay, cool, man. That's got to be freaking crazy, though. I hope everything ends up all right. Hope they have the fire under control. So you stretch it out on this rack, and then you get a very sort of... It's a blade, but it's not like a super nice fancy cutting blade. This isn't going to be like a razor blade usually. It's just to kind of scrape off all of the gunk, right? Because there's a hair side and there's an inside side. And on the hair side, you got to scrape off all the hair. And then on the inside part of the skin, you've got to scrape out all of the gunk, like the fat and the connective tissue and the yuck, right? And you sort of scrape on the blemishes. So like if there's a scar on the animal or if there's a spot on the skin, you kind of scrape it to try to make it look nice. And then the really good vellum would be finished on one of the sides by rubbing something into the skin, something like talc or usually pumice. And that would sort of even out the writing surface and make it really nice and white. Also made it easier for the ink to absorb into that parchment. I like the yuck as a technical term. There we go. Usually they reuse the connective tissue as glue. Yes, they did. So the tanner, the person making leather, is probably going to be on hand for a lot of this. This is one of those things where I wonder how people figured it out. Lots of time and no internet. And let's not forget Jimmy. What does the slurry do to people? Lime isn't good for you, right? No. So after you soak it for a while and then you take it out and you rinse it off, the lime starts breaking down like the hair and the yuck part, and it makes it easier to scrape off because it's very, very basic and it literally eats part of that off. Did they cook the leather to remove the hair? There was sometimes heating in the lime bath part, but didn't always call for heating. A guy looked at the animal hide and was like, I wonder if I could ride on that. Yeah, pretty much. By the way, who first thought, let's melt this horse and use it to stick other things together? Oh man. Yeah, horse glue. Lime eats all but the toughest material. It would eat the hide too if you left it in long enough. Yeah, so there's a magic to this. There's like a balance that you have to hit, and you have to be good at this. It's not like somebody can just go make parchment, right? Which is another part of the problem, because as we've described here, all of this is very labor intensive and it's crazy expensive. So papyrus was one thing, and you could get it really easily, and there was a lot of it. But man, parchment, that's the good stuff. Oh, it's so nice, but it's so expensive. So you want to save that stuff for as much as you can. The great thing about parchment, though, is you can actually reuse it. And there are lots of ancient documents that we have found that have been reused. They're called palimpsests. And you can, thanks to modern technology, one of the things that we've been able to do is find these old pieces of parchment and shoot them with different types of wavelengths of light. And we can actually read the old document that was there prior to them cleaning off the parchment and reusing it, because ancient inks had certain types of pigments and metals and isotopes inside of them. So we can like read stuff back in the day. So you read a book now and it's like, you know, it looks like it's talking about one thing, but if you shoot it full of these particular types of rays and examine the spectronomy or spectrography, science person, is it spectrography? I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, you can read this stuff. And we have actually found documents that we had thought were lost in history. You know, but we've actually found parts of them on old pieces of parchment. You've seen art done on parchment. It's like fancy paper, but it's still produced. That's so neat. It is super neat. I can't say words. Spectrometry. Thank you. So if a book sucked, they erased it and wrote it over. Yup. Or if you literally want to rewrite history, you can literally rewrite history. Or if you're not so rich and you find one of these crappy pieces of parchment books that you don't know how to read and you want to use it yourself, you go clean it off and you sell it like new. And if you're just broke and need new paper, they found that Roman chariot parking ticket that time. I'm sorry, sir, but your horses are not allowed to poop here. So let me show you some parchment. This is just so cool what you're going to have here, Shane. I'm just sitting here with a big smile on my face hearing you talk about this. Yeah, man, I love this stuff, man. This is what I do. This is the little calm center of my world. I'm glad that you're here, man. You're good people, and you're good for the chat. So let's show you some parchment. So again, we have the Book of the Dead. Here's some parchment. This is in a scroll. Check it. We're talking about scrolls. This particular one is a scroll written in Hebrew. And I picked this particular image because you can see here that they've actually joined these two pieces together. And if you can tell, if we look right up here, the way that they put these together is actually very, very fine stitching. So you can see some of these stitches that are holding these pieces of parchment together. Love. Parchment is better on my bum than the leaves we've been using. Oh man, if you're still running short of TP, come down to Hattiesburg. I'll let you have some. We've got enough to go around. I hope people are still hoarding TP up that way, Bubba. Okay, so parchment. It's a cool thing, but it's still super expensive. You don't want to touch ancient papyrus. It's super brittle. Yes. Almost always is super, super brittle. But things change. We progress. We come up with new stuff. And we're going to shift over to the east. Because over here in China, people are thinking about this writing stuff. And papyrus had actually made its way all the way over to China. TP has been back for a while. Awesome. Parchment, because it's leather, needs to be handled to put oils back in it. Yes. Leaves a 3, let it be. Yeah, don't use the pointy leaves. The new thing is hoarding hand sanitizer here. Oh man. It's still hard to find over here too. So alas and alack. Oh, that's actually kind of a pun. Leaves a 5, feel the vibe. Okay, so the thing about getting papyrus in China is that it comes from a long way away, right? So here's Egypt, way over here, and here's China, way over here. That's a long way to carry around paper, right? So China is going to get to work on their own version of this. And China has, as you might expect, its own native plants, especially bamboo. So it turns out that you can take bamboo, You can cut it in half and you can flatten it out, and you can make something very much like a writing surface that is pretty durable. Bamboo is a tough thing. And you can write on this stuff, right? It absorbs ink very well. It's durable. It's long lasting. It doesn't mind very much if it's humid or dry. Bamboo can be literally anywhere. And there you go, literally anything. So over in China, they start writing on bamboo. And the way that they would make these scrolls is actually pretty neat. Well, I can show you. How about that? Let's go back to the images. So here's our good old-fashioned parchment scroll. Check this guy out. This is a bamboo scroll. And as you can see, the individual pieces here are cut and flattened pieces of bamboo, and they are secured by these neat little holes and these little pieces of twine. That panda ate my grocery list. That's what happened when the pandas get in the kitchen, man. They always eat everything. Okay, so you can see lots of cool writing. You mean homework. The panda ate your homework. So you start seeing these pop up around the 1200s BC in China. Prior to that, they had done a lot of writing on stones and also bones. We talked a little bit about that when we were talking about Shang Dynasty China. But the stuff that they were using on oracle bones wasn't necessarily kind of book material. Those were usually just prophecies, sort of one of things, so they weren't really collected. But you get whole stories written like this. Did the bamboo influence how they write, or the other way around? That's a great question, Joe. I'm pretty sure that the bamboo was just a happy coincidence, because most Asian writing is going to write top to bottom, and a lot of them write left to right. I think the fact that they were these neat little vertical rules was just a coincidence that helped them keep it in, because I'm pretty sure that we have evidence of writing prior to the bamboo being used in this form where they write vertically. That's a great question, though. Right to left. Yes, Kyle, thank you. Recto versa. Keeping me honest. But China has other plant-based stuff that they can use, like this thing. This is a piece of silk that has some neat little artwork on it and has lots of writing on it. So you can use silk as a book. But I hope that you all already understand the problem with writing on silk, that being the same sort of problem that you have with parchment. It's really friggin' expensive, and it's labor intensive. And in China, silk was pretty prevalent, but it was better for you economically to sell a big bolt of silk than it was to use it to write these big documents. There are some pros. Silk is very light. It's very easy to store. You can make a silk scroll like the one that we're looking at here, and it will last for a very long time. It holds the ink very well. This particular scroll that we're looking at is probably about 1800 to 2000 years old, and it still looks very vibrant. You can still see the colors. Nice line work here. So, you know, it's got some ups, but it's just really friggin' expensive. And only the rich people can really afford this stuff, right? So silk is an option, but it's not really the good stuff, right? So we've talked about the Near East. We've talked about the Far East. What about the subcontinent? That reminds me of hand-painted silk clothes. That's where it actually transitioned out of, right? So you would have your... Well, and everybody's seen stuff like Japanese clothing. Japanese is a lot later, but, you know, your silk gi with your family crest on the back of it, that sort of thing is very, very common. And the Japanese actually stole that from the Chinese. A lot of sort of fun foundational Japanese cultural elements are adapted from Chinese stuff. Yeah, so what's going on in India? India doesn't have as much bamboo. There's some down there. India, though, is a little bit isolated, and they've always kind of been a little bit isolated like that. And we've actually talked about this already. They have their own version of paper. And this is something that gets popular in India. It's also used in China, a little bit over in Japan. But they have birch paper. And it looks like this. So you take strips of birch bark and you mash them together using a similar process to the papyrus, where you mash them really, really heavily together with heavy flat objects and get it a little bit hot and hopefully squish out all of the liquid and then dry it and then, pick it back up. So this is a birch piece of paper, but I picked this particular image for a reason. Notice what we've got going on right here. Already, we can see that these pieces are coming apart. And this is a very common problem with birch paper. These particular pieces right here that we're looking at are probably from around the 100s AD. Maybe the late, 80s, 90s AD to 100 AD. Right, so it's not very long lasting. This is significantly younger than anything that we've looked at tonight, and it's already in pretty bad shape. So it was great for the time, but if we're talking about long lasting stuff, it's not going to it's going to degrade really quickly. This stuff also gets very, very fragile. Like KP mentioned, papyrus getting really fragile. This birch bark stuff is potentially even more fragile. When it dries out, it gets really, really dry. I did not know you could paint on birch skin, but it doesn't surprise me. But this is the stuff that you see written on here is from India. Birch writing is very, very common in India, or birch as a writing medium is very common in India. But you do see some of this over in China as well. So we're getting to the book. We're getting the page stuff the right way. We're getting stuff lined up the right way, but we don't have that one missing piece. What is that missing piece? I'm surprised it didn't come from Russia. Yeah, with all the birches up there. Well, part of the reason that it came from further south in Asia is because of the human migration patterns. People didn't settle in really big groups in Russia until much, much later than places like the Middle East and places like China, places like India. And when they did get there, they remained in the hunter-gatherer, non-specialized kind of culture for much, much longer. It wasn't until probably a couple thousand years after India had already, gotten up and running and had big cities that Russia followed suit. Are there any ancient equivalents of memes written down? I often wonder if our current civilization crumbled, how aliens of the future would be able to make sense of memes without context. That's a great question. So there were linguistic tropes, and there was graffiti. There were, I think the best thing that I could tell you about are some things that went on gravestones. There were abbreviations that you could find across the ancient world that went on gravestones, especially in places like the Mediterranean world. So places like Greece and Italy, Spain, Turkey, anywhere that knew the Greek language. You could see these certain abbreviations on gravestones, and they stood for kind of standardized sayings. Like one of them was, "Don't laugh at me, you're coming to see me pretty soon." So basically I'm dead and you're going, "Oh, that guy's dead, but you're going to be here soon." And Pompeii has lots of kind of risque graffiti that's actually been published. You can go Google Pompeii graffiti and read some of the stuff, and it's pretty scandalous. But that's not the full out version of memes, but the concept of a meme is really just communicating visually, right? So if we look at the way that most of our mythological heroes and most of our deities are depicted, they have a certain sort of visual understanding. If you go into a church, this is just an example. You walk into a church, you see a guy with a big gaping wound on his side, and holes in his hands, you immediately know who that is, right? You don't have to have a text bar that says, this is Jesus, because he has a visual identification. If you go into the ancient world and find a statue, so let's say we're digging out in the middle of Libya, and we unearth this guy wearing a lion mane cloak and carrying a giant club. Well, guess what? That's Hercules. And we know it's Hercules because when you see Hercules, he's always got these visual images. And in a certain way, that is a meme. Like, it gets into your brain. It's a pictograph, exactly. So that's sort of, well, I mean, meme is just short for mimetic, right? It's a way that we get things into our brains. Oh yeah, there we go. Meme means mimetic. Grethar already had me. I promise I didn't plagiarize you, Grethar. I didn't even see that until you said it. Way earlier examples. Mimetic, River, Shaka when the walls fell. Yep. I wish I could make more streams because I'm learning so much. Oh, Stephan, I'm glad that you came by. I'm glad that you got an opportunity to. Always remember that the VODs are hanging around in the channel. You can watch those whenever you want to. I know it's not quite the same. You know, we get the interaction, we get to goof around, we get to make jokes with each other, but it's there. It's there. So, what are we missing? We're missing the magic thing, though. If we're going to have books, you gotta have the paper. So where does paper come from? Well, paper comes from China. And it comes from the work of a particular guy. We actually know the dude who is credited with inventing paper. Now, you know. How would you like to be that dude? His name is Kai Lun. And he comes from Dunder Mifflin, yeah. Oh, man. I was trying to think of a really fancy way to change Dunder Mifflin into something that sounded Chinese, but all I could think of was super racist, stereotypical stuff, so I'm not going to say it. Rice paper. No, actually, like paper. Like modern paper. It was invented by a guy named Kai Lun, and he's credited with doing this in 105 AD. We actually know the year where he supposedly came up with the first working process to make paper. Wood or cotton is a great question. The answer is both. ¿Por qué no los dos? Right? Paper. Kai Lun was from the Han Dynasty. He's going to come up with this particular mix, and this was something that he was actually working on for apparently quite some time before he figured it out. And he has a particular proprietary mix. It was bamboo that you mushed up into a pulp, hemp, fibers from cloth, typically just whatever dirty rags that he could find, and mulberry bark. And you mixed all of this stuff together and you mushed it up and you brought it to a boil. And then you added the secret ingredient. And we don't actually know what this was. It's some sort of glue or fixative agent. It might be horse glue. I mean, there were lots of horses in the Chinese world at that time. But we really don't know what this fixative agent was. Urine? Probably urine. I don't think it was urine. What's up with you and urine tonight? There's also questions that it could have been some sort of plant sap. You have to pop out for a bit, maybe back, have a good night. Bubba, have a great night as well. Hope you have a good one. See everybody, tell everybody, hey. The secret ingredient was there is no secret ingredient. No, there was some sort of like sticky stuff that you put in there to get it to cohese together. So you add this stuff in, you drain it out, and then you dump all of this pulp onto a big flat stone. And then comes the fun part, because you get a big stick and you just whack it. You just beat the pulp fibers down until there aren't any lumps in them. And once all of the lumps are gone, beat it like it owes you money, right? So once it gets flattened out, then you mush it with another big rock to make it flat. And here's the fun thing about it. Sometimes you take that big mush with the rock that is just a rock, and it's dried with without heat. Sometimes, though, it's dried with heat. This is the early cold press, hot press. There you go. Could be agar, yeah. We don't know. He was very secretive about it. And the secret of Han Dynasty papermaking was guarded very, very closely. Because once they made paper, paper becomes the second most valuable export from China. Everybody knows about silk, right? And everybody knows about the Silk Road. Here's the thing about it, though. Silk is really only going to be produced at one time of the year. And when that time of the year happens, there's a giant bunch of silk moving around. Here's the thing about paper, though. You can make paper whenever you want to. And China makes tons of money off of paper. It becomes the standard writing surface of all of Asia. It gets over into Africa. It gets down into the Near East. It's all over the place. It's probably not urine. Oh my gosh. I've seen someone making this, not the exact ingredients, but there's a girl on YouTube named Li Jiki who does a lot of traditional things. I would bet that's very similar. I totally want to make paper traditionally when you visit Japan. I think that would be super awesome. And the techniques of this stuff are passed down, and it's a very traditional kind of thing. And a lot of them have not been changed very much in the modern world. Of course, this particular type of paper would be then very, very expensive, but you know what we're talking about. So let's look at some old Chinese paper. This again is our birch bark. Boom! Old Chinese paper. And it's what you think it looks like. It looks like a paper, and it's got Chinese writing on it. But this piece of paper is about 1900 years old. And you can tell that it's still pretty well preserved. So, neat stuff. Okay, so we're to the point now, right? If we're going to make a book, you got to have paper. So now we have paper. But now we got to put it together, right? So how do you bind this stuff? And there's the question. There are actually lots of different ways to bind a book. And the ancient world doesn't really have an agreed upon way of going about this for quite some time. Somewhere around the 200s or so, you start seeing these things called codices. The singular is codex. This is something that was made with parchment going back to like the 200s BC, but around 200 AD, you're going to start seeing codexes made out of paper. And there's actually evidence of this type of codex in Roman culture. Codex, yeah. Not the character from Felicia Day's web series, which is super neat, by the way. I don't know if you all have ever seen that. Is the first codex how to make a codex. To make one of these, first, let me make you an instruction manual to make one of these. Is that like what came first, the instructions or the book? The Guild. Yeah, I love The Guild. It's so good. So funny. I need to watch that again. I've only seen it once all the way through, and it's been a long time. It's very funny. Anyway, so what is a codex? Well, to begin with, the Romans had these little tablets, and they were made out of wood, and they typically had 3 pieces of wood, and there was sort of like an outside cover that was on the back, and then when you opened it up, it would have little squares that they had pressed wax into. And you got your little stylus, and you could write in the wax, right? And then you would close the little tablet, and it would keep that together. So people had the idea that, you have this opening, and you have words on both sides of the page, if you will. And that's sort of like the prototype of the codex. But you start making these bound stacks of paper, right? Sometimes codexes or codices have covers. Sometimes they don't have covers. So sometimes we'll find an ancient codex that's literally just a bunch of folded pieces of paper that are twined together. And as you might tell, those don't necessarily last very long. If it's in a place with humidity, it's going to fall apart. The binding's going to fall apart. Dang it, Zabu. Oh, good times. So they would write in the wax, send it off, and then the recipient could melt it, flat it again, and write it back. Right. There you go. You got it. It's reusable because the wax could just be like leveled off. Great stuff. So what's up with this codex thing? You got different styles, right? Some codexes or codices have just a giant stack of individual pages. And people figured out pretty quick that's not necessarily the best way to go, right? So people started figuring out that you could fold stuff, right? You could make one big piece of paper that covers both sides of the book and then fold it in half when the book closes. And this is what's called, wait for it, a folio. And you already knew this, right? Games Workshop's Eldar Codex. Oxyrhynchus is lousy with codices. Yeah, Oxyrhynchus is also in Egypt, where it's super good for preserving paper and a garbage dump. And one of the most lucky archaeological finds that has ever happened in history. For those of you that don't know, Oxyrhynchus is an archaeological dig site in Egypt where archaeologists discovered what was essentially the garbage pit for an entire city's old, unused, and discarded paperwork. And Oxyrhynchus has literally, and I'm not joking here, thousands of different documents that we have gone through. And there has been so much work done on Oxyrhynchus. The tedious part of it, though, is that a lot of it is literally just tiny little pieces of paper about that big. And they might be friggin' receipts. Like, I bought 5 things of this from Joe. Right? They should have shredded it. Nobody needs to find my old receipts. Oh, man. The ancients hiding their embezzling. Ancient Egyptian fanfics. There is mythology. There is... it's great. Like, there are all sorts of different genres of garbage books. There are copies of the Bible. There are copies of mythology. There are history books. There are slanderous pieces of libel written against each other, and tons of religious texts. Yeah, it's got lots of cool stuff. If you're interested in this, go Google it. Oxyrhynchus. Okay, so when you're making a folio, folios are just folded twice. But there are other ways that you can make these things, right? You can make something that's called a quarto, where you make a big piece of paper that you fold in half and then fold in twice. So you get basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages out of one piece of paper. That's called a quarto. There are also octavos, right? Where you'd make 8 folds. But what this requires is literally something called a paper knife, where you would get these books that had been folded and then bound together, and it would be sent to you sometimes unfinished, and you'd get a paper knife and you'd literally just cut the pages apart. Penny Dreadfuls, exactly. Lots of that stuff. If we find different accounts of history in the garbage pit, what does that mean for history? If you're trying to get me to say history is garbage, I refuse. So there were, by the way, the modern letter opener, the little tool that opens up your letters, is really just a paper knife. And it evolved from having to cut the individual leaves of your pages apart when you ordered a codex. The more you know. So let's look at a codex. And I found a great picture of one with the binding visible. Historians are trash pandas. The early X-Acto. There we go. And that's why it still looks like a little knife. Yup. There you are. Okay. This is a knife. We have gone through in previous episodes. People wrote propaganda and all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, man. People in the ancient world are just as nasty as people are today, right? So check this out. This is an ancient codex, and you can actually see here, this is the folio style, where you have one page that is basically being folded in half. You see here, these things are called signatures, where each sort of part of the larger codex is a smaller bundle of these individual things. So this individual chunk right here is a signature. This is a signature. They come in different sizes. These are pretty big, and they're probably 64-page signatures. Sometimes you'll see them small. Like if you get a modern paperback, sometimes they're like 32-page signatures or 16-page signatures. Like if you're making a modern comic book, there are a certain number of modern comic book pages that people want you to do because when they make a signature, they want to print a certain number of pieces of paper and staple it together. All right. One time, my cat knocked over a vase sitting on top of my bookshelf, and all my books underneath ended up looking like that. Oh, that's horrible. I would be so mad at the cat. I mean, but can you be... Well, I guess the cat could have done it on purpose. Cats have that potential. Oh, man. Okay, so while we're here, let me show you another style of book printing, or book binding, rather, that's called concertina. This is what's called concertina printing, and I've gone back to a bamboo to show you that, remember, it's not just stuff that's going on in the Western culture. This is also happening in the East. So concertina is what you might... like if you get some children's books today, they're called butterfly books, where the cover is sort of loosely attached to one side and then they zigzag back and forth and then there's a back cover. That's called concertina printing, or binding rather. Accordion books, exactly, there you are. And this happens when you have really, really thick chunks of stuff like this. So if you have a codex that's got lots and lots of pages and you don't want one giant chunk of a cover, sometimes you adopt the concertina here. Oh, the kitties. There we are. Cats are spiteful little creatures, but you love them anyway. Yeah, so there we go. Cool beans. So, if we've got paper and we have binding, we are at books. Congratulations, we've hit the books. But there's a bit of a stall out, because for about the next 900 years, people do things the exact same way. And that is, if you want a book, you got to find somebody to copy it for you. So let's imagine I want a copy of Lord of the Rings, my favorite piece of fiction. Lord of the Rings is 1,000+ pages long, and when you throw in the appendices, it's like 1,300 pages long. If I gave you Lord of the Rings and said, I would like for you to copy Lord of the Rings for me, and there's no such thing as Xerox machines, and you can't make a photocopy of it, and you can't take a picture of it with your phone and then print it out, you have to copy it by hand. How long is that going to take you to copy by hand? Lots. Second question. That would take 5 ever. Which is longer than 4 ever, right? Monks did it in mass. That's a bit of a joke there. Yeah, I gotcha. The second question. How much do I have to pay you to make me a physical, hand-copied edition of Lord of the Rings? How much would I have to pay you? How long would that take you? Right? You didn't intend for that joke to be funny? Well, Daria, guess what? You just made a great pun, and you didn't even know it. Okay, so books are expensive, which is why literacy rates suck in the ancient world. You know, we're talking single-digit literacy rates in most ancient world places. Because if you have to, I don't know, if you have to get a book, it's not like even today. Like I was looking earlier today, I've got to get some books for a college class that I'm taking. And this book was $120. And it was on applied social psychology. And my brain is just like, why? So, yeah. I ended up getting the older edition for, and I'm not joking here, $5.35. And I'm just going to kind of wing it and hope. The worst thing about puns is that they can strike without warning. Yeah. There you go. Small print run. Yeah. People writing in the science world that think that their books are super impressive and expensive. So, books are expensive. People that wanted books in the ancient world, like, we could even take this up to the medieval period. So you've got some French noble lord sitting in his castle, and he's like, I would like a Bible for my son. My son's going to get married. I'd like to buy him a Bible. You would go to the monastery and you'd put in an order for the Bible. It might take you 2 years to get that Bible. And you're going to have to make a sizable donation. Thousands of dollars to get this book, right? So, what if we could make those books faster? Is there a way to make the book faster? Something like 2 to 3 years. Yeah, it would take 2 or 3 years to get some books. Now, they knew that it was going to take that long, so they were always working on stuff. But if you wanted it like personalized, you know, with like your great family crest in it and your colors on all the pages and all the, the fancy decorations, that's lots extra. People were patient. Boy, better read that book. Ambidextrous monks, yeah, they're doing twice the work in half the time. Love book plates that are full of memento mori. If you steal my book, you're going to hell. Right. There's some ancient meme work for you. You hate waiting 2 to 3 days to get a book from Amazon. Yeah, well, there you are. We are spoiled by modern conveniences. Luckily, the Chinese have an idea, and they go, we've got this figured out. How about we make a book press? This is the smarts. So what do? We end up with, boom, with this thing. This is a wood block page of a Chinese book. So what someone has done is taken an entire piece of wood and carved out in relief all of these characters backwards. And you can tell that this has been used a bajillion numbers of times because of just how black it is. This is completely soaked with ink. The church was not happy with the book press invention. They were not. We gave our lead professor a book plate of one of those sayings in Greek for his 20th anniversary. Oh, that was great. Those clever Chinese guys. Right, these people are ahead of the game. To be fair, church is really happy with anything. Fair enough. So, this is a great invention. It's also still very cumbersome because there is an enormous amount of upfront work. It would take you longer to carve the entire backwards and reversed letters of the Lord of the Rings into a piece of wood than it would to actually just write it out. The benefit here, of course, being is that once you got all of these things carved, you could then use them multiple times. But also, you've got to store all of these. How big of a room would you have to store wooden plates that contained every page of Lord of the Rings? Or any book. Let's pick a smaller book like The Hobbit. You know, The Hobbit's 300 pages with the appendices and stuff, right? So, how big of a room would you need for 300 of those? Quick, we need... Did the stream go down? Joe is saying the stream... I'm getting the F. Oh. Oh, darn. Am I back up? Am I back? Can you see me? Yeah, I just had to reload. Oh, it went down for a second. You say small book, and then I think hop on pop. Okay, I'm good. All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was. Luckily, it just bounced back. Okay. I'm sure that it's going to split my video again, and I'm going to have to go do extra work to push it back together. But such is life. So we get woodblock printing. This is still a lot. What I was saying is, imagine how big of a room you would have to keep to have an entire book's worth of book plates stored in. That's big, right? So, another Chinese guy, guy named Bi Xing. Twitch pushing commercials, had to refresh, then watch one. Sorry, Joey. Guy named Bi Xing comes up with the newest invention, and this one's fancy. Wait for it. What if, instead of having this giant block, you had these things? That is exactly what you think it is. Well, I don't know. It might not be what you think it is. You might be thinking, those look like some good old candies. These are individual characters in movable type that you could arrange on the fly. This is a movable type printing press. There we go. You want to know the crazy thing about it? Bi Xing did this in 1041 AD. And you might be thinking, wow, 1041 AD, that sounds a lot earlier than Johannes Gutenberg. Because it is, by 400 years. Because the Chinese figured this out 400 years before the Europeans did. Why does this candy taste like ink? Hey, David Peterson. David Peterson. Everybody go check out David Peterson. I mentioned his stuff earlier. The guy hosting the online con starts tomorrow. You should go check it out. Level printing presses, they're so interesting. I like them too. And now you can write all the propaganda. Or a Bible, or an ancient Greek history. Or, an old play or something. You can do whatever you want to now because we have movable type. Now, of course, the more familiar printing press that we know of was invented by Johannes Gutenberg. Oh, man, I cannot type and talk at the same time. Johannes Gutenberg. Did you factor in the time exchange rate between Europe and Asia? Even with time zones, they would have been about 400 years and 6 hours ahead. Or pornography, yeah. And if you haven't read any of the old Greek stories, there are a lot of those that get pretty scandalous. Yeah, people like the smut. So Gutenberg, of course, is going to make his version of the printing press in Europe. It is pretty common. If I could get over to my images to skip to the next image, it looks like this. You have your type, you have your press. Do you have any explanation for why Bi Xing's version didn't get any credit? Yeah, modern history is written by white people. And European colonization from about 1600 to about 19, end of World War I. Nope, 19, end of World War II, and then after. 19, and oh, good gracious, the friggin' Europeans. I love Europeans, by the way. People are people, and nobody today is at fault. Well, there might be some people that I'm getting myself into a hole here. we have to be careful not to blame people that are alive today for things that have been done way before they were alive. If you perpetuate a negative system, that is one thing. But if you live in a system and try to tear it down, that's another thing. Pure European racism, a lot of it, yeah. And, I mean, everybody in the world knew that the Chinese had figured this stuff out. There were books from China that had made their way to Europe. And Gutenberg, I mean, he came up with this idea more or less on his own, but he was definitely influenced by people that wanted to, sort of replicate other ideas. So this is where, by the way, the pun of the stream's title comes in, because here you put in your page, and your page is held against the machine. So, page against the machine. I do love the look of Gutenberg's press. Those exposed joints are super sexy to a woodworking printmaker. Oh yeah, man. Look at those. Those dovetail joint. That's not a dovetail joint. I don't actually know what the name of that joint is. I'm not so handy with the woodworking stuff. So there we go. With the advent of the printing press, you can produce books so much more quickly. The innovations that Gutenberg made, as opposed to the ones from China, from Bixing's, are fairly numerous. So Gutenberg's model is definitely a superior version, but it's not the first printing press. That came 400 years earlier over in China. The letters that Bixing were using were either made out of clay or porcelain, and they didn't hold up as long. The metals that Gutenberg used for his individual letters are much more durable and last a lot longer and can be pressed a lot more times before they lose their definition. Do we know the history of mechanized printing? Were pre-Gutenberg hand-pressed or rubbed? Both a bit. The pressing of paper had been around since papyrus. You see woodblock printing being done through a pressing version for thousands of years. If we're looking at specifics into printing on pages for books, though, it's going to be both. And it's going to depend on where you are, and it's going to be really heavily dependent on how much money is going into it, right? So some of these woodblock prints can get, well, I mean, if we're talking about woodblock printing in art, you can have 9 or 10 different woodblocks that go into the same picture. It's not quite as elaborate most times for books. You have your one nice big, chunk of text, and then you press it. But sometimes you do get the roll, but the roll is a little bit later once mechanization had picked up a little bit more. So the pressing is the earliest, and then you're going to move into the rolling. And for a while, they're done at the same time. Of course, now, like most of the stuff that we have that's printed in physical text today isn't pressed anymore. Like, we gave up pressing in the Xerox world, where you have the old risograph machines where you pulled out the drum and it. My mom used to use those to make exams, and I got to run the risograph machine when I was a kid. That was a treat for me. Wood carved relief block, sexy too. All right, so what else did we get from Gutenberg? Well, the typesetters are going to be kind of a standardized role in Europe once the printing press starts traveling around, and we get a lot of our modern terminology from this stuff. If you look at a modern day piece of notebook paper and you have college rule or wide rule, those little lines are called rules, and they were literally how wide apart the little guide things were on the rack of a printing press. So when you took a printing press apart, you had this rack, and it had these little metal parts in it that were the spaces. Sometimes they were wood. Metal lasted longer, though. that were between the individual rows of characters, and they held your characters in place, and you would literally sit and put these letters in backwards. I took a shower, so I don't know if I'm stinky, but hey, how's it going, Harvey Pierce? Shane for having a highlight of the risograph. Yeah. So you learned about this in J school. Yeah. So when you're sitting here and you're putting these letters in, like we get the term rule, like follow the rules. You know, you got to follow the little line. But we also get upper and lower case, because it turns out that there's actually a standardized system of how you arrange your little boxes of letters, right? So if you're sitting here and you're facing your page and you're setting type, so you've got big bins beside you, and each of those bins has E's and A's and I's and J's and K's and L's and all the different little letters and symbols of our language. And you literally have to reach over and pick one up and then put it in the line. And this is why you set the type. And the way that they had those boxes arranged was by speed. So the letters that you used most required the least amount of movement, right? And you would literally have two cases. You would have a lowercase that had all of what we call today lowercase letters, and you would have an uppercase, which is literally the uppercase. And it was the uppercase because you didn't use them as much. So you could, you didn't want to put the stuff that you used in the uppercase. You wanted to put it in the lowercase, so you didn't have to move as much. Did they have Comic Sans letters? No. Yes, upper and lowercase letters came from. There we go. When you worked at the Hattiesburg American, we had a printing press on site. They stopped using it because it was somehow cheaper to print it somewhere else than truck copies in. Oh, that stinks. Oh, yeah, just papyrus. And wingdings. Oh, wingdings. Yeah, and another thing. There are certain modern keyboard layouts, like the way that our keyboards on our computers and our typewriters, the way that those letters are arranged follows the exact same concept, right? So if you've ever looked at your keyboard and wondered why it's not A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, it's because the letters that you use the most are the ones that require the least amount of moving. And that is an idea that came directly from these old printing presses. Hieroglyphics are ancient Near East wingdings. I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can. I guess if you understand wingdings, there was a period of time in my life when I was a child that I could read wingdings. Mostly because I wanted to be able to say, hey, I can read wingdings. So QWERTY came from printing presses. Yep, the concept is the same. It's exactly the same. You can type faster when your fingers don't move as much. So the letters, and you could look at your keyboard right now, like the letters you don't use a lot, like Q and Z, they're over in the corners and you have to pinky hit them, and there you go. There you go. Fun times and cool stuff. I don't know why that blocked Kilted. Okay. All right, ladies and gents. So that brings us to a close. I hope that you all have had some fun and had a good time. That's the end of my portion. We can hang around and talk for some more time if you would like. Remember that there are channel points below you that you can use to redeem for some cool stuff. Reading wingdings is the talent equivalent of speaking Pig Latin. It's basically the same skill. I way and cake speak pad and lay us jazz fay as way I way and cake speak English way. I learned how to speak Pig Latin really fast too, just because I'm a giant nerd. So if there was something nerdy, I probably learned how to do it. The reason I can read we had burger stories. We talked about poop, and Daria is on a urine kick. Okay. Eastern Europe Oh, do I just pick something from Eastern Europe? Let's talk Belarus. The capital of Belarus is Minsk. And I pick Belarus because Belarus is under a lot of stress right now. The president is a dude named Lukashenko, who was just reelected with something close to 80% of the popular vote. The people are rioting in Belarus right now because they believe that he has rigged the election. So capital of Belarus is Minsk. Now I'll do Klingon. Now I'll do Elvish. Magolanen. I can do more Elvish than I can do Klingon. I don't actually know any Klingon. I was never a really big Star Trek fan. Darth Vader.
Jimbab, I am your teacher.
Urine was used in production. I know, but you were like all over the urine. I sent you a postcard today. Oh, awesome. I will. I'll make a note. And still was and is used. I know. There are lots of idioms about piss poor and stuff like that we could go into. Can't type. I can't type either. I'm having a problem. It's been one of those days. All right, ladies and gents. Totally impressed. Kyle Wright told me to shut up in the Tamarin language. Okay. I did not know that Kyle Wright knew Tamarin language. Tamarian language? Don't pick on urine. Rank 3 things. Rock, paper, scissors. Now this is actually difficult. And you're going to get a little bit of a bonus with this one, because you're going to get a little bit of a story. Can I redeem this one for a random story about your love of the Smashing Pumpkins? I do love the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm feeling generous. I'll throw some extra stuff in here. All right, so rock, paper, scissors. Ranking them, rank 3. Prior to probably middle elementary school, I had no real care for rock, paper, scissors. Like, I never really cared about any of them, right? But then there was a fateful episode of The Adventures of Pete and Pete, where younger Pete was going against an enemy called Papercut, who would challenge everyone to a game of rock, paper, scissors, and he would always throw paper. And you were expected to take the dive, right? You were expected to throw rock, because if you didn't, he would craft something out of paper and then attack you with it, right? So I always, from that point forward, really enjoyed throwing scissors first, because in the story, younger Pete throws scissors, and he gets to pwn Papercut, and this starts this giant epic battle where the entire gang of Little Pete's friends ends up playing rock, paper, scissors against Papercut, and then throwing stuff like thermonuclear explosion and dune buggy, which do all of these horrible things to paper. Great show, great episodes. So my favorite would be scissors, because that's where you got to start. Rock, because it's not paper, and then paper. So there we go. I do love the Smashing Pumpkins. I have been able to see them live. Not nearly as cool as the experience that Nersberger had, where he got to watch one of their reunion shows where they played like a 3-hour set. I did get to watch them when they played here in Mississippi. It was a very dreary day. The ground of the park was completely made out of mush. There were drunken redneck people that were splashing mud on everybody. They ended up getting into fist fights and getting escorted out. The Pumpkins came on. They played great. It was amazing. They covered Ground Control to Major Tom, Space Oddity, is that the name of the song? By David Bowie. Great stuff. The stage literally started sinking Yeah, and the fight was literally like 3 feet away from us. There we go. On the printing episode, you pick paper as number 3. Well, that's where we go. That's how I roll. I got another redeem 3. There, and there. Oh, man, that's hard. I probably use THERE the most. It's probably my favorite. They are versus their. I'm going to have to go with their, and then they are. I don't like contractions. When I write, I try my best to never use contractions unless it's in dialogue. So, there, and there. There you are. You saw them once in Biloxi during Siamese Dream Tour, and then just last year for the reunion. No Darcy, though. Yeah, that's a whole other story, and it's an ongoing saga. All right. Data doesn't like contractions either. Yeah, there we go. I'm a bit of a stickler. No fights for the show, just Billy talking a lot about how critics never acknowledge his genius and lambasting the crowds for not being excited enough. Very sleepy show in Sacramento. Let's slip the puppy of war. Okay, the puppy might be asleep. I know she's up front, so let me call her. Here she comes. Oh, and you know what she has. Come and see me. Come here. Okay, do I have to take this from you? Put it up here. I'll let you come up here. Come on. Come on. Oh, yes. There's the puppy. There's the puppy. Hello. Hello. Oh, you want your chicken. You want the chicken. Oh, this is the Kaylee. This is Kaylee. She is named after the mechanic on Firefly. So her full name is Kaylee Fry McInnes. Brittany's favorite TV show is Firefly. Her favorite character is Kaylee. So there we go. Kaylee Fry. When I saw Dropkick Murphys at House of Blues in New Orleans, Al Barr dove off the stage and knocked a dude flat out for throwing crap at him all night. I guess they don't call them Dropkick Murphys for nothing. Firefly was awesome. Movie was good too. And alas, good things end too soon. Alrighty. So we've got a couple of things to do before we wrap up officially. And I got to get into Streamlabs and get this thing kicking. All widgets. I should have been pulling this stuff up earlier, but I forgot to. Speaking of good things ending too soon, the Patriot Act was canceled today. I don't know what Patriot Act is. Fill me in. A Netflix show? Man, there's so many shows that I know that I need to watch, and I don't have time to. There are just too many things. Nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right either. Man, you would think that after I've done this before, I would be able to figure out how to do it again. Okay. We're going to complete that. We're going to do a custom giveaway. We're going to change this. This is going to be the okay. All right, so what I'm about to do, I'm going to start the giveaway to show everybody again. Brittany has once again made us some cute little adventures in history art. This one refers to our last viewer request episode where we were talking about the Celtic people. And it has a little pun about golden donuts. Oh wait, you're supposed to wear them. So I'm going to start the giveaway. You'll see it here in just a second. To enter, all you need to do is type !raffle. International is fine. I will warn you, I don't yet have international stamps. If you won last time, sit out this one, please. All right, so let's give it a go. All right, so you should see that pop up. There we go. We're going to get a picture. Oh, Joey, I know, man. But you won two things in a row. Like, you won something in my stream, and then literally the next day you won something in David's stream. So you had a roll going there. You're becoming the new winner of all things. I've been extremely thirsty today. All right. So while that is going, I'm going to move over here to the Twitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. What about international stamps? Oh, I have some on the way. I have ordered international stamps. I do not currently have any in my possession, though. They should be here within the next couple of days. Joey, how did that all work out? Did they put the fire out? Is the situation under control now? So again, I have lots of people in the room, and not everybody is in. Anybody? Well, I guess I can't enter. I would love to keep all of these things, but they're for you. My wife has told me that I need to give them away. So, !raffle if you want to enter. And I'll start thinking about what we want to do next. So, on viewer request episodes, the last thing that we do before we go out on a raid, yeah, they put out the fire. Only the apartment was with fire, and beneath it was not allowed to move. Okay, well, I'm glad they put it out, and I'm glad everything was as okay as it could be. Of course, it would be better if nobody's apartment was on fire. Years and years ago, when the USSR first broke up, one of the countries that made postage stamps commemorating Lenin and Marx. One stamp had John Lennon, the other Groucho Marx. They sold a bunch of the That's great. I appreciate the cheek of that. History of gunpowder. Okay. That's going to be pretty short, though. Can we do gunpowder and guns? Kyle, would that be okay? Kind of impressive, really, watching the fire from outside as the whole building would burn. That's too much to ask for 2020. Well, the problem with just doing gunpowder is that is a discussion that would take about 5 minutes. I would say, hey, the Chinese invented gunpowder, and then gunpowder / guns. Okay, we'll do gunpowder and guns. That's cool. So as our typical the raffle has ended. So let me pick a winner. The winner is Grethar. Congratulations. So if you would, either shoot me a whisper or send me a message in Discord or however you would like to. I just need your name and your address. And as soon as I get international stamps in, I will send it out to you. Congratulations. Okay, so Nerf guns. I might throw some gun in there. Okay, so what we're doing right now, by the way, viewer request episodes are every other Tuesday night, unless I get really squirrely. I'm definitely not doing one next Tuesday. This week is beating the junk out of me, and it's only going to get busier. So there was not going to be one next Tuesday, but the Tuesday subsequent. So what we're doing is we're coming up with topics that you all want to talk about. So the rule is that we always carry over the number 2 winner from the previous poll. The number 2 winner from the last poll was Hellgates. He does them weekly when his wife wants a topic bad enough. That was for her birthday. Thank you very much. So we have Hellgates, which is going to come in. We have guns and gunpowder. I need 2 more options of things that you all want to talk about. Hellgates. Okay, that's there. Not Buffy the Vampire Slayer, by the way. So I need 2 more suggestions. Yeah. Hellgates? Well, they're on there. Unless everybody is just saying Hellgates.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I am Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
No.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus. Thank you, Grethar, for the gift sub to Stephanomaly. And Stephanomaly, you are now Spartacus. And you get the adventure hat emote. Thanks, Grethar. I appreciate that. I really do. So, does anybody have other options, or do we just want to roll with these 2 and let them duel it out? I'm still Brian. Oh, Joey. Okay. Serious note. Last call for other options. If not, I'll just roll with the poll with what we have now and see. History of the KGB. Ah. There's a good one. Is it even a real duel? Tailored clothing. Okay. We could do a history of clothes. All right. There we go. So here's our poll. If you look above your chat, you will now see a poll. And you click the little down triangle key, and you can open it up, and you can vote. And you can pick whatsoever your little hearts desire. The hell is Hellgates? Yeah, who here won't vote for Hellgates? 2 people won't vote for Hellgates. What's sad is that it's fairly apparent that Kyle has abandoned his own option. You could pick whatever you want as long as it's Hellgates. Okay. KGB's making a bit of a comeback here. The Schmersh MGB. All right, and while this is running, I'm going to look at who we might be rating. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bum. Neo just went live. I'm not familiar with Neo. I just want to know what the Hellgates are. So in the ancient world, there are lots of places on Earth that ancient people thought were gates to the underworld, that were literally gates to hell. And they're very frequently places where they built temples. There were lots of weird stories associated with these locations. Sometimes they had like sulfur deposits there, that kind of stuff. Neo Realms. Bubba, I thought that I met you in Wade Acuff's channel. Ah, yes, Hellgates has won resoundingly. KGB came in second, though, so it will hold over till the next one. All right. So I have 3 people that are online that I follow. Not that any of these others are bad ideas. Neo Realms is Mississippi. So usually if I haven't been to a place before, I don't like to raid them. Then that's nothing against that particular person. I just like to know where I'm going to drop my people off. Did someone say cat videos? How long is the Turkmenistani door to hell been burning? Like, I want to say 6 or 7 years now. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while. That place is creepy, though. I don't think that's actually an ancient Hellgate. That's just a place where there's a whole bunch of oil and natural gas reserves that they lit on fire and it's still burning. Art teacher, family stream artist. All right, let me give them a look-see, and we'll see what we think here. Neo Realms. Let's see what's going on.
Copperhead out there, right? So I went out there today and see him. I'm thinking he probably left because he took all the hiding spots out of the pond and around the pond.
Looks like he is drawing a very angry dwarf. I can get behind that.
We go down to the lake.
Okay, cool. Another Mississippi artist. We'll build slowly but surely a web of Mississippi people. Yeah, too bad the Japanese printmaking isn't streaming. That would be a great transition. So we're gonna go raid Neo Realms, who is a Mississippi art streamer. He's drawing a pretty wicked looking dwarf. So our he watercolor paints for his games. Cool. We're gonna head out. Thanks, Nerdsburger, for hanging around. Appreciated the chat. Lots of additions. Good stuff. See you around. Thanks for the history. Thank you for the hangout. So I'm going to hit the button. Our rallying raid call is adventure. And if you have them, throw up the adventure hats. You're from Mississippi. I think that counts. Yeah, absolutely. And even if you aren't from Mississippi, you're my family. Everybody is family here. We're all so much more alike than we are different. Let's remember the actual wisdom of the cookie. What does it say? We all have a lot more in common than it seems. The wisdom of the cookie. Never forget the wisdom of the cookie. Graythar, many thanks. We're all family, all my sisters and me. Right? All right, so I'm going to hit the raid button. I'm going to switch over to the outro screen. I will see all of you Thursday, 2 days, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be talking about all of that cool Assyrian stuff falling apart because you can't stay on top forever. Also want to put in another plug for my friend David Peterson, who's running Online Con that starts tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, from 2 to 10, from Wednesday to Sunday. Lots of great content, all sorts of good stuff, fun for the whole family. Everybody should go check it out. All right, I will see everybody around. Adventure and throw the hats, and I'll see you on Thursday.